Hey everybody, welcome back for episode 2 of the new YouTube channel, Marketing Tips, Tricks, and Insights. I'm Scott Berg, your host, and former CMO. I've actually run all the different functions of marketing during my career. Had a lot of people ask me to put together some of my thoughts and tips so that it can be shared to others out in the industry, especially now given the COVID coronavirus and the issues and challenges that we've all been facing there. I've worked at small to medium and large businesses, international businesses. I've marketed internationally. Again, as I mentioned earlier, I've held management roles or been in the lower sections in doing a variety of these different projects and managing these different areas. So have a variety of different things, see things from a completely different perspective sometimes than other folks. So this channel itself is really geared towards you. I want to provide meaningful content and insights for you so that you can take that away and the knowledge that's associated with it. I want to provide you content that you can download and utilize when you finish hearing the video itself. I will tell you about the experiences I've had, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And I've wanted this channel to be conversational. You'll notice that there's not a big lighting crew, and there's not heavy production and all of that. That's done on a purpose. The content needs to be the key. So that's where I've been focusing the attention on. Okay, so let's get into the focus on e-commerce. And I have 30 e-commerce tips. I'm not going to kind of go through all of them. You'll be able to download those, as I mentioned earlier, but I'll go through some of these and give you some examples of some things that happened and some thoughts that you may want to consider. First of all is executive management support is key. You need to have somebody at that level who is your key sponsor. Now, here's an interesting point. Make sure that it's visible who that sponsor is. I can tell you that one time we had a project that we thought that the CEO was the sponsor, and he told us he was the sponsor. Ended up being that at the end of the day, it was actually the CFO that ended up being the, and I say, quote, sponsor. The CFO did not like the project and frankly really ended up kind of killing the project until we got reassessed and were able to move it forward. That leads me to number 2, which is make sure you understand who your barriers are to be able to pull these types of projects off. I had an individual one time that had a small e-commerce platform, and he wouldn't give it up and migrated into the new platform and put up a lot of challenges with that, including being able to download information, providing feedback, etc., and his support. So make sure you understand those folks as well and how you can mitigate some of the challenges associated with that. Okay, let's go on to other topics. First of all, when you're going to be putting these systems together, they're going to take a lot of resources. Outsource the build. Now, some people are going to say, especially your IT guys and your dev guys, oh no, we can handle it. Here's the challenge with that. One, they've got to learn the platform software and how to build it. Okay. Number 2 is that the length of time for them to be able to do that is going to take far longer than if you have a vendor do it outside. 3, their priorities change on a whim based off of what their management is telling them. So you almost have to have this be a separate swim channel, that you have a different group that's managing that so that depending upon if budgets get cut or they let people go or people quit, your project still is moving forward. So I highly recommend that you outsource the build itself. Okay, so what should you do insource wise? Well, once you have the thing built, you want to actually insource the management of it and the maintenance. So you're going to need to have some IT people involved with that. In fact, you probably want to have those IT people maybe be your Scrum Master or be involved with the project along the way, but they're basically providing the internal insights and connections into systems internally. So you need to balance out those people, but you definitely want to insource it versus outsource it, because if you outsource it, the cost just goes up substantially, and you just don't have any control over that, and your return on your investment goes down quite fast as well. Plus, your OpEx budget looks absolutely insane. People wonder why you're actually have an e-commerce platform itself. Okay, if possible, stick to the out-of-box functionality. Don't try to overthink this, okay? Yes, you're going to have some products that have some unique aspects to them, or delivery that has unique aspects to them. But the more that you actually customize the platform itself, that provides opportunities for a lot more issues. And so if you can, try to stick with most of the out-of-the-box functionality itself. Make sure you research the company that you're going to be buying the product from. Given that there are a lot of acquisitions and there's a lot of players in this space, you want to make sure that they're financially sound, and you want to check to see what other customers they have. If you're going to be their largest customer from a revenue perspective and from a size perspective, you might want to reconsider possibly whether or not you should go with that particular platform itself. It can be very powerful to be the top dog on the heap, but it can also set you up for a lot of risks moving forward. You need to make sure that you get input on the requirements from a variety of different areas, not just from the e-commerce team and from the marketers, who you may very well be, but from the business lines themselves, from IT, security, privacy, finance. You want to make sure that you have the finance folks in there, because they're going to have to take an active role in either getting the purchase order set up, or billing, how you deal with any type of currency issues, a whole host of different things. So certainly executive management, you want their view into this. Product management, legal, all of those folks. You need to meet with everybody you possibly can to get their inputs and their feedback. Even the guy down, if you have a physical product that you're putting out there, even the guy that's down in the shipping department, that person needs to be interviewed so that they understand what the process flow is, because there's probably going to be some changes in that as well. When you do meet with people, you're going to probably find, especially on the business side, that 90% of the requirements are exactly the same, which is great. I don't think I've ever had it be anything less than 90%. So you'll probably be taking the same notes over and over again. If possible, stay in the cloud. Don't try to buy a product that you're going to have to put on a server and manage from that perspective. If you can put this up on a cloud platform, AWS, Azure, whatever it may be out in the marketplace, do that. Makes it a lot easier in the long run for you. And they have all of the systems, as well as the security backup and all the rest of that stuff to keep things aligned appropriately. When you're putting this together and you're initially putting together your plan on this, on e-commerce, set clear expectations. You're probably not going to generate any significant amount of revenue until about 18 months. Yep, 18 months. It sounds crazy, but by the time you get everything else figured out, and by the time you get your SEO done and you get all your marketing campaigns associated with things, you start to kind of get this crescendo of business. It's going up, there's no question of that, but people think that as soon as you open a store, that the cash register starts ringing, and man, you start making sales left and right. In fact, I actually had the CEO of one company actually call me every single day for the first 2 weeks and ask how many products we had sold. And I continually told this individual that this was going to be some time. And after we'd only sold 2 products, he was wondering whether or not this project was exactly worthwhile. Again, I probably had not set the expectations accordingly on the front end, but certainly we were able to reset those moving forward. But make sure you are very clear with this, especially with your CFO and the product lines and the business lines and executive management, because those are the guys who are going to start looking for that revenue out in the marketplace itself. When you are developing this type of a platform, you're going to want to use an Agile methodology versus Waterfall. You may have vendors that tell you that Waterfall is better. Trust me, Agile on this is the most beneficial because it catches the issues and the challenges early, versus a Waterfall when they just deliver it to you and say, okay, here it is. So make sure you're using an Agile methodology itself. Ensure that you've got an operating budget that is appropriate. As you start to move forward into, say, year 2 of this project, you're going to need to have annual maintenance costs associated with the platform, license fees, any new headcount that you bring in, marketing expenses, training. You may need to increase the number of licenses that you have. So remember that this is not just one and done where you bring the platform up and then all of a sudden you don't need any more money. You have to treat this as a business and a channel. And both of those require ongoing funding. So make sure on the front end when you're putting together your financials that you include that. And I would recommend actually doing a 3 to 5 year financial assessment when you're actually pitching the e-commerce platform. Make sure that the site is GDPR compliant as well as other respective privacy compliance issues out in the marketplace itself. Review and modify the entire customer experience. You're building this e-commerce site, yes, to make money, but the person that's going on the site is the customer. So you need to build it for the customer. And you need to make sure that that flow of activity from the time that they enter the site to the time that they actually receive the product, and even afterwards, if they happen to have issues with the product and what they have to do, that is completely geared towards the customer, not for the business. Okay, that's very, very important. Okay. Purchase orders. Big mistake I made. Big mistake I made. Went to market without having integrated in purchase orders into the e-commerce platform. I'm the one that takes the full responsibility and mistake on this one. My team was pushing forward that they thought we need to have POs on there. I thought we were fine with moving forward without it and that we'd bring them on later. Here's the big challenge. Most of the customers that decided that they wanted to purchase from us actually had POs. So if you have POs, and they tend to be the things that people are buying products off of, just make sure you have those on there as well as with the other normal types of payment processing types of activities that you have. Make sure that you have put the embargo countries within the system itself so that you don't have issues there. Capitalize as much of this expense as humanly possible. That way then you're able to capitalize this over a 3, 5, maybe 7 year time period. I think most of them that I've done have been capitalization over a 3 year time period. However, given what's happened in the current environment with the coronavirus and how that's impacted businesses, they may actually try to push that out to a 5 or 7 year. Just keep that in consideration itself. If you're going to heavy up on any one area, just focus your attention focus it on security. The moment that your credit card or that your credit card numbers are hacked, that's a big issue. And the marketplace will chew you up for that. So, as opposed to holding the credit card numbers in your system, make sure that they're held in the credit card processor system. Okay, they have all of the different securities and thoughts in regards to it. The one company that I worked for ended up having had a break-in on some of its credit cards. This is when you didn't have a processor that could actually manage this stuff. The company was penalized by the card processors and ended up having to put together a huge manual and go through a number of gates to be able to actually accept credit cards. In fact, it pushed the launch of the platform back 90 days. There was so much work that needed to be done. Key area to focus your attention on. If you can, use photos and videos when you put up the site so that people can actually see the product, maybe hear some reviews from customers, etc. If you can integrate your e-commerce site into your website in general, which you really probably should, make sure that you're doing that. If not, you need to have some type of connection between the two to make things a little bit easier on customers themselves. You need to report the numbers, okay? As I mentioned earlier with the CEO that kept calling me for 2 weeks, you need to report the numbers, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Okay, if they're the ugly or the bad, put down exactly what you're doing to try to rectify those moving forward itself. You need to make sure that you are aligned with sales. Here's one of the big issues and one of the big gotchas that can come back and haunt you. See, if a customer who is aligned to a salesperson, right, ends up buying through e-commerce, does the salesperson get credit for that, for their commission? Don't know, right? There's challenges there because then the sales force won't support, and sales management will not support your e-commerce platform. They'll basically own the customer, hold them close, not let them participate in e-commerce. And that can impact the functionality, or excuse me, the financial aspects associated with the platform. And keep this in mind as well. Sometimes it's not just about expanding your base of customers and expanding your sales with e-commerce. Sometimes it's about getting efficiency in the way that sales move through the system. Okay, so think that through as well. But this is a big one, and you need to make sure that executive management has laid down the law to the head of sales and the salespeople, and that they understand why the company is doing what it's doing. And number two, that there are processes associated with compensation that have been dealt with and communicated prior to the launch of the e-commerce platform itself. You just don't want to be dealing with this once the platform is up and running. You may need to connect your system into the finance system if it needs to be billed there, as I mentioned earlier with the PO issue that I had. You may need to get it connected into your marketing ops system, so make sure that you understand the APIs between those two, between all of your different platforms, to understand what you're getting and what you can't get. You're gonna make mistakes, okay? You're gonna make a lot of mistakes. It's just the nature of the beast with e-commerce, with websites, with anything digitally oriented. With that in mind, I've always put a buffer in of 90 days to 120 days. That doesn't sound too happy to management, right? They always want it done faster. You're going to run into issues, and you're going to need those 90 days. Trust me. So you're either going to have to go back to management and say, hey, guess what? I need 90 days. Or you build it into the front end of the project, and you keep your timeline that you get the project done ahead of the 90 days, okay? So if you come into market early and it's working, you've basically shaved that time off. You look like a hero. If you have to extend out from there, okay, you look like a zero, as they like to say. That 90 days will come into play as you get closer and closer to the finish line on this project, because you will run into something that's going to extend out the project line. Don't overbuy a system. You're going to have a lot of vendors that are going to come in and say that they can do X, Y, and Z. If you and your business don't need X, Y, and Z, don't buy it. They're also probably going to push a lot of licenses your way. And they may package them to say, hey, look, you know, you get 10 licenses and they're $1,000 a piece. Well, if you need one license, maybe 2 licenses, why the hell are you paying for 10 licenses? So when you're negotiating the procurement contract up front, you need to say, look, you can buy individual licenses, not a package deal. Because here's where they get you also, right? They'll say you got to buy 10 licenses, not 2. And then if you need more than 10, you have to buy, say, 25. So if you need 12 licenses, now you're having to buy 25. Lot of cash, extra cash being played in and out there. So keep that in mind as well. On the front end is when to negotiate these contracts hard. Get your procurement people involved with it and make sure that you lock down those costs. Make sure you also know every single cost, current cost and actually putting it together, but the ongoing maintenance cost. If there's ongoing software costs that you would have to buy, additional upgrade software, which typically isn't the case, but I have seen it happen, you need to make sure that that contract is tight. Okay, folks, that's about it on e-commerce tips. There's a lot more of them as well, but those are kind of my top ones. You can get this list at the link below. I'm leaving it there, as well as on that link you'll find a document that provides e-commerce requirements. A good chunk of them, there are things that you may want to take into consideration. So please download both of those. Again, they're not gated, so you can take them as much as you want. And then if you do a favor to me, if you would actually comment and put any questions in the comment section below. If you would share the channel, subscribe to the channel as well, that'd be helpful. And you can follow me on LinkedIn and Twitter. I'm putting those down in the below section, so you can take a look at that. And if you have, again, any comments, please put them down there. Look forward to hearing from you. And until next time, thanks.